So we're going to be talking about perspective today, and Olga made a really valid point about it. Olga, do you want to repeat what you said?
Yeah, of course I can repeat it. The things that I realized during traveling and sketching like different kinds of buildings, I understood that like I know how to paint and draw, but the thing with perspective is so important because when you're like sketching or like painting buildings, you need to understand all the rules and you need to have it like strictly in your head to know how to do this. So it's enormously important.
Right. And part of it is to know the rules, right? Which are different than the rules of 3 dimensions. Like if we were building this in clay, it would have we'd have a different set of issues. But because we're translating 3 dimensions to 2, that's where things start to get tricky. So, and really this started with drawing last week's, wait, where is it? Here. Really, it started when I was watching you guys try to draw this cube, right? Like we're watching you try to draw this cube. And I was seeing the struggle of trying to get these shapes together. Like what is exactly happening here? And I think at the time I told you, I'll tell you what's happening, but later. and so now we are going to talk about what is happening with the cube. We're going to talk about what's happening with the cube in many places. We're going to practice drawing a cube. There we go. Trying to get this to look a little bit less blurry. So ultimately, we're going to talk about the different ways that perspective affects cubes depending on where you're looking at them. So let's start with a simple thing. Hold on, I could use a ruler. Where's my, there's one. So let's start with the concept of the vanishing point. Just what happens as objects go away from each other. So if we were to consider, what is that? I don't know. There we go. I don't know why. I'm gonna move this down just a little bit. Maybe it'll like that. But yeah, there we go. Okay. So as we're looking at something, and as it goes away from us, you will notice that the thing gets smaller as it goes onto a piece of paper, and it kind of disappears to what we call a single vanishing point. So what do I mean by that? Well, in a very simple way, as we've discussed many times, right? Here's the road. So many of you learned how to draw this. Here is like where your eye level horizon is. This is the horizon line where, you know, kind of the road meets the sky. And you'll see, you learned probably as a kid to draw a road like this. But we know that the road isn't actually this wide here and this wide here. We know that it's actually the same length. We also know that it's not levitating. It's not rising up off the page. Why? What is going on here? Here, hold on. There we go. Right? So what is actually happening? We look at things in cone vision, and that means as things go away from us, they become kind of narrower and more angled up. So that's what's happening with this road. This road is going to a single point called a vanishing point. And it's called a vanishing point because you can see these lines come together. And they're coming together here because here is your horizon. Here's your eye level horizon, where your eye is going. So let's talk about, and so objects, a cube can have either one vanishing point or two, depending on where it is and how it's turned to look at you. Does anybody have questions about this before we get started? We're going to start. Does this make sense to you, this concept that things get narrower? All objects that we look at are sort of subject to this, right? And that's the mind bender, because you're used to looking at, I don't know, this thing, right? And thinking that it's just a flat thing, but it's not. Actually, you can kind of see This is curved. This part is, this is a side right here where that light is, and it's turning away from us. So the shape of this, as it moves away from us, becomes a little bit more angled and a little bit narrower. So how does this work when it comes to a cube? Well, it starts like this, and you guys can sketch this if you want to. It starts like this. We start by drawing a cube as a single square. Not exactly cube, a little bit more rectangular. So if we're standing and looking at this, the front of the cube like this, go ahead and sketch this.
It's it's so windy here, so my internet is going.
Really?
out.
Wow.
It's terrible, huh?
Yeah. So
So this is the front of the cube. And here is the top of the cube. See that? So if I'm looking at a cube from the front and kind of below, right? So it's below, the cube is below, is located below my horizon line. So by the way, this is the horizon line. Objects that are below it, we're kind of looking up. So there is your first cube. If I'm drawing the cube from the side, I'm going to come over here and just draw the front of the cube. So basically, because I'm looking at the front of the cube, there's a single vanishing, the cube is contained in this finished single vanishing point. And if I'm trying to decide, right, so I'm looking at the front of the cube like this. That's not how we were looking at it the other day, but we're just starting with the simple version. So if you draw a cube like this, here's the thing about the single vanishing point. If these are all, if you're looking at these from the same direction, you can see the front, even though one is over here and one is over here and one is in the front, it all goes to the same vanishing point. Oops, it becomes, it meets, everything goes to the same vanishing point. See that? And here as well. Here, I'm going to use my ruler. I recommend you use a ruler, not for measuring, but for a straight edge, something. Everything meets at this same vanishing point. Does everybody get why? And if you don't, tell me and I'll try and explain it. Why is everything meeting at the same vanishing point?
Is it
Why?
because we're standing in front of them?
Yes. And
So we're
these are all in,
standing, so our eye, we're in front of the middle one, and hence we're seeing that straight on, but we're seeing the other two to the left and the right.
right. However, we're still in front of them, right?
But we're in front. So
Right.
from the front, we have a front side view of the left, of the right side, because we're on its right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Right. Excellent, Bettina. That's an excellent description. So there's a little extra bit that we see if we're standing on the right or the left. Let me show you that. Also, this bottom goes to the same vanishing point. So you can see that? So this is a pretty simplified image, right? We just see two planes. We see this plane and we see the top plane. And because we've drawn this line to the vanishing points, this automatically defines the sides for us. If we're looking at something from the right or left, we actually see a little bit more. We see three sides. We see that side, and we see that side. Here, we see this side, and we see this side. Kind of neat, huh? Logical, rational, makes sense. So things to remember when you're drawing cubes and you're looking at them from this perspective, right? Is that the work of trying to figure out the angles is done for you by defining the vanishing point and drawing the lines to it. The lines that we're left with are the easy lines. All verticals are straight up and down. These horizontals go across. It's the lines that are moving away from us that start to bend. Another thing to observe, these lines are parallel. They are not parallel. I think that's a big mistake people make. These lines, if you look at this line, you'll see that this line is steeper. It angles more sharply to the right than this one does. Otherwise, they couldn't make it to the vanishing point. Let me take a picture of this, and I'd like to see you guys show me your sketch from here. Take this down for just a second. Here we go. So because we're standing in front of the main side, everything goes in this direction because our front image is one side. Everything goes in this direction to one vanishing point. This is a single vanishing point drawing of the cube. The second thing we're going to do is add more cubes using horizontal and vertical lines. So I can do this, vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. See that? Because my angled lines have been defined for me by this vanishing point. I'm going to the vanishing point. Nice, Bettina. Great. Right. Vertical, or sorry, horizontal, vertical. There's my second cube. Notice that this cube is smaller. Two things. Notice that this, although this is a cube, and these sides are technically equal, we don't draw them equal. Notice that this is bigger because it's closer to us. This is angled and rising up because it's smaller and farther away. It's the same on this side. Vertical, horizontal. Wait, sorry. Yes, sorry. Sometimes one gets confused. Vertical, oh, sorry, horizontal, vertical, vertical, horizontal. Vertical, horizontal. So I'd like you to make a little row of these getting smaller and smaller, maybe up to about here. I'd like you to make a little row of cubes. Yep, Yolanda, yep. And notice how much your vanishing point makes this easy for you. Your single vanishing point. If you get those lines and notice how much that makes it easy for you. Hold on, I'm just gonna photograph this. You guys have it. I'll do one more in the middle, but I want you to finish this line. Vertical, sorry, vertical, vertical, horizontal, horizontal. See that? So I want you to fill this up. Fill it with cubes.
Leah,
Yes,
do something completely different.
sure.
I'm setting up a palette of greens and blues.
Okay.
And Viridian, is it an important color? What do you use it for? Is it
I
specific
like
or
it. It's a good
strange?
mixing color. It's kind of a neutral. It can kind of go either warm or cool depending on what you mix it with. So it can get warmer if you add more yellows to it. It can get cooler if you add more sort of blues and whites to it. I love it. I think it's a very important color. It's like alizarin crimson.
Because
right?
it looks a bit unnatural when you first look at it.
All of the greens look unnatural. There's
No,
not
no,
one
this
green
one-
that looks natural. And
but
don't
this
tell
one
me
looks
sap green looks natural because it's a
I love
horrible
sap
color.
green. I
Oh
absolutely
my
love
God.
sap green. It's like fresh grown grass.
Right, because you don't like to mix, so you want that color to be your grass color, right? Like, right? Yeah. If you mix, right? Well, sorry. Anyway, it's funny. Jessica and I were both going, black sap green, and she said she's taking this portrait shop now where the guy starts with sap green. So we were both just like, oh my God, how fascinating! Take a workshop with somebody just because they'll do something you don't like. But anyway, yes, your answer to the question is Viridian is the best mixing green. It's the best way to start and then add reds, yellows, blues, right, as you want to adjust
Okay,
it.
so I should have one in my palette. Thank
You
you.
definitely should. Yes, great question. Love that question. I never really thought about, I used to think of Viridian as a cool color, as I did
It
alizarin
looks cool to
crimson.
me.
Huh?
It looks cool to me.
It is on the cool side, but then I took a still life painting workshop at the Art Students League of New York, and I watched a teacher who's been painting still life her whole life, using colors and painting a still life in front of us, and she talked about Viridian green and alizarin crimson as both warm and cool. Nice, Bettina. Do the ones in the center too.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when I saw that, I watched her mix it into warm. I watched her mix it into cool, right? I watched her make it both. And I went, oh yeah, there are these neutrals. She was like, it's really a neutral that can go either direction depending on what you mix it with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. I don't
So
do enough.
alizarin, I'd say alizarin and Viridian green are those colors. What I can't really think of any more off the top of my head.
Leah,
Yes. Hi,
what
Sarah.
about that color? Hi. What about that color that everybody got confused by with some dress and everybody kept seeing a different color? What
I've
is that?
never understood that.
does
I've
that
never
mean?
understood the exercise. I remember that, but I never understood the exercise. It has something to do with some people see some light
Oh,
waves.
so it
and
doesn't
some-
nothing to do with the color. It's
It has
sight.
nothing to
see?
do with the color. It has to do with how
Oh.
people perceive things. And I've never gotten it. Like I've never really gotten the point. It's how people perceive things. But in my experience as an art teacher, I generally see that people are kind of seeing similar things to what I do when I put a color down. Okay, so Olga, I want to show you a couple of things.
I think in the middle there is a problem.
Yeah, there's a problem on the middle and the right. And the problem with the middle is you've made this side too big.
Ah, yeah, for sure.
Yep. So remember, you've done the same thing on this side. So remember that as you go back in space, the distance between these gets smaller. Right? It gets smaller because we're moving farther away. It doesn't get bigger.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
The last one on the right side, I wanted it to be like not like cube, but like a bit other shape. Because
But the
I want-
middle one is also a problematic on this
Mhm.
side. So fix that. Just get to know that that's what's happening. Nice. Good job, Bettina, really good. It's cool, isn't it, you guys? This kind of idea of what's happening. So when we identify the vanishing point, right, which is this horizon line, everything below it will bend up to the horizon line. We'll go up, we'll slant up towards the horizon line. What if I draw a cube? Let's see, let's just do 3. What if we draw what if we're looking and we see something above, see cube above the horizon line. So I want you to observe how identifying these vanishing points helps you get angles right. Right? That's the biggest challenge, isn't it?
Your screen is blurred.
Yeah, I know. Keeps doing that. I don't know why. I'm gonna try and move this around. I'm sending everything across the, there we go, it's a little bit better. I'm sending everything across the thread too, so you guys can see it. So when something is above the vanishing point and we're looking at it from the front, they go down to the same vanishing point. They go down. So in this case, right, and because I can see the edge here, I'm going to put that down here too.
Do you want us to do this as well?
Yes, I do. So this rule kind of works. This vanishing point, single vanishing point rule works, right? And then of course, I'm still doing my verticals and my horizontals. I'm still doing my horizontals across the middle. I'm still doing my verticals, my horizontals. Excuse me. I'm still doing my vertical, my horizontals, and my verticals. Yep, Yolanda looks great.
I have a couple more questions, Leo,
Yes,
about
ma'am.
color. You've got a
Yes.
second.
I
What
do.
about phthalo green? It looks even
Phthalo
more.
green is very cool.
Would you need that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's quite
It looks very
electric.
close to Viridian.
Oh, it's not. It's much brighter than Viridian. It's much bluer and kind of more jewel toned. Viridian's a little
Okay.
bit more neutral. It's got more white in it, actually. Viridian does a little bit more white in it, so it's a little bit more neutral.
More muted, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean. But the way you really tell is when you start to mix it, right? So I would say phthalo green is your kind of cool. Viridian is a neutral. Sap green would be a warm.
Okay. And
What else?
I was going to ask you something else, but it's
Okay, yeah, do it.
my brain, you know. It's
Oh yeah, okay, I understand. Oh God, so been there. So been there. Once again, verticals and horizontals. So these lines, notice these
Oh, yes.
lines that are kind of in front are not slanted, right? They're not slanted. The lines that are slanted are the sides that are kind of going away, the areas that are going away from us. This is the thing that everybody has trouble with. But if you identify the vanishing point, you can get that angle correct. So go ahead and draw that row.
I remember what it is, Leo.
Yes, ma'am.
You know how you always say that you should put some red in the green? Is
Mhm.
there a red in particular?
It depends.
Oh.
So if you want something a little bit, it just depends on what you kind of need to, if you're wanting a warm green, you often want to put in like what makes a nice olivey tone is burnt sienna as red. Sometimes cadmium as a red will create with green will create a nice kind of olivey tone. If you want a darker, richer, kind of cooler green, like one of my favorite black mixes is Viridian green and alizarin crimson. It makes a kind of cool, like, neutrally toned black. But you can also try quinacridone red or rose. That's cooler. So it just depends on what you're trying to achieve. And you may not
Okay.
know that until you try them. So it's good to have, Sandra, I'd say in general on palettes, it's good to have a warm,
A
and
warm
a
and a
cool
cold.
of each color. I think you guys know my palette. I mean, I have a particular, and then you add other colors, right, as you want to. Like turquoise is kind of a fun outlier that we like to throw in. Right? But like for me, my basic palette is ultramarine blue is the warm, phthalo blue is the cool. Sometimes Prussian blue is the cool as well. Or Payne's gray, depending on which blue, sort of kind of how all Payne's gray, Prussian blue, and phthalo blue can all be considered cool. Red, Viridian, cadmium is warm. Burnt sienna is kind of warm, neutral, warmish. Burnt sienna and cadmium are warm. Quinacridone and alizarin are neutral to cool. And then with yellows, the cadmiums, once again, are warm. Ochre is kind of a cool neutral. But the real cools are like the sort of white mixed yellows, like pale yellow or lemon yellow.
Right.
Those kind of things are the.
Oh, by the way, I was thinking, a good maybe a replacement for the cadmiums. I might be completely wrong, but are the Hansas.
I don't really know much about the Hansas. Let me look that up.
Because there's some warm, there's some cool. I really like them.
Yeah, Hansas are probably just a variation on.
And but they're cleaner. You know what I mean?
Are
it's a
they?
more-
Yeah,
Yes.
it's funny. I don't use them very much, so I should look into that. It's too bad Jessica's not here. I know she would know the answer
Yes,
to
she
that
would have-
question off the top of her head. I'll do a little research and pop in. All right, how's it going, everybody? Can you see how this would be helpful to you to determine, like, whether you're building, for example, are you standing and looking down at it? Are you looking up at it? Right? What if, and I'll show you this in a second, because of course, we're very often not looking at things in this perspective when it has to do with buildings. We're very much looking at them in a different perspective. So we'll get to that in just a second. But I'd like to see people's practice. What I like about the single vanishing point and the concept of it is that once you get it down, it takes a lot of the work out of trying to guess what these angles are, right? Instead of trying to eyeball them, you see that they kind of work in a line. They fit in this little box, this envelope.
Question here. Well, actually, two questions.
Yes.
One is, how do you decide or define the vanishing point? Is it normally at the center of the picture? So that's the first question.
Okay.
And the second question is, when you make the vanishing lines, and then I was having some trouble deciding how wide the how to say that for each cube, like how wide do I go into on the top and on the side?
You mean on the
So-
top and on the side? All right. So those are two good questions. You mean how tall, really? I know you mean wide, but what you mean is tall. You've got the
Right.
width right here, right?
Sure, right. Yes.
Right. So as something goes away from you, it gets smaller. So you put these horizontal lines closer together. As things go away from you, they get smaller. So as I draw this, I put these horizontal lines closer together. See that? As things move away from you, they get smaller. So there's less distance. It's really a height thing, although you feel like it's a width thing. As things move away from you, so every time I get a little bit farther, I put these two horizontal lines closer together. My width gets smaller.
I think I get the point that it relatively it'll get smaller and smaller. But
Mhm.
when I was drawing, like for example, even for the first one, I don't even know how wide, how what's the height should be.
Well, it should, you mean this, you don't know
Yeah.
how tall this
Yeah.
should be? It should
Right.
be less than this,
But it doesn't
be
matter.
much less than this. I don't think you have to calculate how
Okay.
much this is. I wouldn't
Okay.
worry about that. I mean, if you want to check it, so let's see. This lesson comes from here. You can't, like, I think, Yolanda, you're trying to calculate too much, right? So this is more of a, so this is how you would do it. You would check how many, I would find a vertical distance here for this front section. And then I check and I see 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, it's 1/4.
Oh, okay. That's a useful skill.
It's usually, yeah, it's a great question. So don't, but I guess what I would say is don't always make it 1/4 because that's not where it always is, right?
Right,
It depends
okay.
on where you're looking at it. But what you can do is you can define the vertical distance of the front, divide it in half, divide it in quarters, and then you compare that. You kind of, and you do that by doing this. Here, hold on, let me pop. That's a really good question. So I'm going to pop up. You'll often see me doing this, right? So if you're working from life, you're actually holding your arms straight. If I'm, let's see, it's so hard to demonstrate this, right? Right? But if I'm holding my arms straight like this, towards something that's not on a flat surface that I can't get to, right? I just have to look and see. I have to hold my arms straight here and then go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? That's how you check.
I see.
But also understand as well, if you also have this understanding that as things go away, they get smaller, you just keep also making them the width between these two. The height between, it's so confusing because this is wide, but it looks like a height. It's going up. The space between these two horizontals gets smaller and smaller, right?
Got it.
Same on the side here. These just get smaller and smaller. So we know sort of as a practice that this front is always bigger than everything else. And then you're kind of measuring. So instead of trying to think it's 1/4 of blah, 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 or it's this of that, think, okay, if I define this distance and I find the halfway points and the quarter points, and I can use that to measure everything else. How high up is that?
Okay.
Not only that, okay, and then your next question was how to identify where the eye level is? Well, that's a really interesting question, right? I have artificially kind of put the eye level here. So what you're asking is really how do you see that in real life is what you're asking, right? So the way you do that, if I could show you, right, is you measure the angle of the top and you see where they come together. So I'm holding my arm straight like this. See that?
Right.
Right. That's like an intensely much harder thing. But it's a good question because that's the follow-up, right? You see where they go. And here's what's really interesting, because where you think the eye level is different depending on like how you're standing. So what you'll see is that things that are above eye level will come down to it. So you'll start to see this slant down. And you will start to see the angles up for things that come below. So you'll kind of see where they come to. You'll be able to start to measure that by holding your arm straight and then checking where do those two lines meet?
I see. Okay, that's
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's easy to see that, right? In this particular in the situation I'm about to give you, which is this, you can see it. It's pretty easy. It's where, like, the sky, when we have this open view of a scene, it's often where the sky meets the ground. Right, that's a simple one. But very often we're inside a building. We can't see that. We're kind of looking down at something. We're looking up at something. Once, like, you don't have this obvious marker, it gets a little trickier. So thank you for asking these questions because they're really great. Does everybody get what she was asking? Kind of, how do you know where the eye level horizon is? That's kind of a random thing. Let's do a quick practice of, like, kind of putting the vanishing point into practice here. I'm going to so we'll do a little bit of that right now, actually. Wish I had made this just a little smaller than I could. Let's see if I can get this so you guys can see both of it. So what I like to do in this particular situation is I'd start with my road. And I'd look and I'd see that here, right, I'm just going to do this like this so that we can see it. So you can see on my paper where my road ends. All the points where my road ends. It's here, 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 and here. So if I mark, I come here to my paper and I mark those in the same place. Here, here, down, right here, let's see, about here, and then right here in the corner. Oops. You guys see what I just did there? I found the end point. So this one is the corner, I'm marking it here. This one is a bit off to the left. I'm marking that here. This one is right before the corner, and this one is a bit off to the right. So once I've defined those, then without drawing the horizon line, I can find where all these meet. I draw an angle line like this. If I draw them as if I'm putting them together, I can find where they meet. Then everything else, then here's my horizon line.
If you were going from life and you couldn't draw it, you'd have to do it proportionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not make things overly complicated right now, right? Because you'll make your mind like blow it up. But then here it becomes very easy, right? Mm-hmm. I just line this line up with my dot. Fairly proportionally, right? And this line up here. Right? Now I have my vanishing point. Everything is going to come here. So when I'm working from life, that's generally what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out where things go. And then everything, and then of course, right, everything else follows. All these other lines go to here. And this is what you were talking about, Olga. This is how buildings look, right? Usually part of it is on the top and part of it is on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
This goes here, right? This one goes here. You see how that works? These go in. So I would like to see how far you guys can get with this sketch. I'm just going to put it up because obviously there's not enough room really for me to sketch this for you. I want to see how far you get with this. trying this sketch. We'll do one that's a little trickier afterwards. And we'll get to 2-point perspective, but I really want to practice this. Give me a second. I forgot to I'm gonna copy one because we've done it before, but I think it'll be really helpful. So let's see this.
Sunshine. Hey, sunshine. No, we don't have time for you.
That we can measure. So it's by the way, you guys, this is going really, I'm impressed. Nice. Yep. Notice that this building and this building don't line up. Sometimes they do if buildings are the same height, but this is a shorter building, so it has a different angle coming into the vanishing point. The bottom is the same, but the top is different.
Leah, what are we trying to draw? This whole thing. Okay, got it.
Whole thing.
Yeah.
The scene. Nice, Osiris. Oh, this is great. You got Osiris, great. But Osiris, there's no, you can't see, I guess what I would say is in this one here in the center, there's no side. We can't see that side because we're looking straight on. So just erase. This is a simpler version. It's more, it's like this. There's only two sides that we see if we're looking straight on to something, not three. Like this. There we go. See that one in the center. If we're looking straight at something, we only see those two sides. One and two. Oops. Here, hold on. Sorry, let me give this to you guys so you can see it better. Remove myself. Okay. Only two sides when we're looking straight at something. So very often something will kind of cut across up and over the horizon line, right? Particularly when you're drawing buildings in the distance. So the one that's on top will kind of come towards the bottom, will come angled down, and the one that's angled down will come up. Sandra, any more color questions, throw them at me while you're talking, if you want to ask anything, because everybody's just kind of doing this, so I like it. And also, Diana, what are you working on?
Oh, I'm working on some kind of a couple sitting on a couch. I'm holding it up. It's
Oh, is this the movie?
yeah.
I love
Yes.
the blue.
But hold on a second. I can't- I
The
can't read.
blue is just going to be overpainted.
I
Hold on,
like it.
let's see. Yes, I saw your husband posted this. Frank posted this This is
Picture,
Jack
yeah.
Johnson, right? And his wife.
Yeah.
Interesting photo. Very
Yeah,
interesting photo.
I'm not so sure it's so fun to paint, but
It's tricky, actually. It's a slightly awkward pose.
yeah, it's very.
And I think that's why, but what's interesting about the photo is how they are with each other. That's like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It might make more sense, Diana, if you just like kind of cut it down to just the faces.
Yeah, maybe.
That's like, but I understand it's slightly awkward.
I think I'm thinking of this one as an
as a practice.
exercise, just as an exercise to see how I will
Excellent.
do another painting of it.
While you're talking about this, let's talk about awkward poses a little bit. Like there's a great Mary Kassad pose. I think I've talked to you guys about this before. I'm going to send this picture over and show it to you. It's from my favorite book. So Mary Kassad is she's an American artist that lived in Paris at the time of sort of Impressionism and Fauvism. She was a friend of Degas, one of Degas' only friends. He apparently was an incredibly difficult man to like. And here we go. Talk about an awkward pose. See that?
Did you send it across?
I sent it across the thread. It's right here, right now. I'll just quickly pop it up so you can see it, right? This is an incredibly awkward pose. It's not a bad painting. And what happened was Degas basically would go through these phases where he'd be like, yeah, women can't paint. And then she would be like,
I
Women
don't
can
see it
totally-
in the thread. I don't see it in
yes.
the,
Oh, I didn't send it yet. There we go. Sorry, there it is.
okay.
Olga, good, excellent. So Olga, just keep it in mind, your road is a little bit narrow.
Mhm.
It's not exactly where the,
It should be wider.
right? I mean, I'm just like being a stickler for where things are, like you will get that's a different view than the one we're viewing, right? It's kind of more of a looking down. And also because I notice about you, my sweet, that sometimes you jump ahead too quickly. You don't pay attention to details like this. So I'm going to call you on it when I see it, because I want you to pay attention to the details. That's the difference, right? Being able to get like everything exactly is to really see. For those of you, I'm trying to decide, if you finish that, I'm going to have us return to one that I've had you do before, which is this one. So I'm going to take a picture of this, send it across the thread, and let you work on that. Everybody else just keep going. This is a more complex view, but the same concept. So here, hold on. So Diana, hang on and I'll tell you more about that piece. Here we go. For those of you who have finished this, I want you to try that. It's on the thread. I don't have it. Well, I have it printed, but I have it printed kind of small. So Diana, this painting, the kind of story behind this painting is that the guy was like, women can't paint. And she was like, women can totally fucking paint. Look, I'm going to take the most awkward, ugly subject that you can imagine and put her in an awkward pose with an awkward, ridiculous background. And I'm going to make a good painting. So you can think of that piece as that challenge. Like, how can I make this a legit painting? This is a legit painting.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like it kind of defies all the rules of what a good painting is. So you can give yourself that assignment as you're looking at that slightly awkward pose of them. He's kind of like pushing himself up a little bit and forward, and she's looking at him adoringly. And it's and there's kind of sort of not that much in between. So think about how you might make that a good painting. Maybe you close in on them a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe you get rid of some of that space. Maybe you stop what you're doing right now and you get rid of that space and you kind of close them in a bit. How would you take this awkward pose and make it into, I think the better exercise than to just copy what's there is to see what do I know about sort of making something even a sort of strange, awkward thing, a good painting. So part of what makes this a good painting is we don't see so much of the background, right? She's really to the center and right.
Yeah.
The pose helps us move around, right, the canvas. So think about those things when you're making decisions. You're definitely, as you know, at that level. So, where you have that understanding.
Yes, I think I'm gonna do this as an exercise, and then I'm gonna see how I'm gonna reframe it.
Yeah, nice, great. So don't spend too much time on the first exercise, because I think you know what you don't like about it. And actually, maybe part of it is, okay, I've got it framed this way. How do I make this a good painting? Right? Like, what can I do to make it? Maybe I change the background up a little bit. Maybe there's still decisions to be made that can play with that a little, that notion a little bit.
Yeah.
You've given yourself, you gotta prove that women can paint, Diana. I think she was the only one that went to that bastard's funeral. Degas.
Oh,
Yeah, he was really not a nice man.
I guess there were a lot of those around.
He was particularly awful, but yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of bastards. Do you think there's like more bastards than nice people around? I always felt like bastards are kind of sprinkled throughout the, jerks are kind of sprinkled throughout the human population. Maybe it's more likely that humans have the capacity to be a jerk at any time.
I think a lot of talented people are jerks because they don't suffer fools gladly.
Yeah, but he was kind of a fool. And he was very talented, but he was kind of a fool. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I wouldn't take them off the hook that easily. I think there's also plenty of talented people that are kind of great. You, for example.
It's a choice. It's a choice. You don't have to be an asshole to be talented.
Right? Yes. Thank you, Osiris.
It's people's egos. That's what it's arrogance and it's ego. It has nothing to do with humanity.
Exactly. That's so funny. That is totally it.
Talent all the time is their egos, and their perception in their own mind is that they're bigger than life when they don't realize they can die and get sick and be unhappy like everyone else.
Or they don't understand that if they have talent, it's something that flows through them. They don't exactly own it. You don't exactly own it. There's a collective, I guess you've got to be Jungian at least. You've got to believe that there's a collective unconscious.
You got to be kind of a yogi thing.
Yeah. There are the people that believe in my favorite book, which is called The War of Art, which is about how you kind of overcome resistance to keep creating, even when you don't really always feel like it. How to be a professional creative, basically. And there's a guy, the guy who wrote it, Stephen Pressfield, has this really strong belief that if you show up consistently at he's a writer, so he would show up every damn day for X amount of hours in his studio, and then he took the pressure off himself to get anything done in that time frame. But he said it was important to show up so that the muse can strike. You don't wait for the muse to strike. You show up, and then the muse strikes when the muse wants to strike. Right? Yeah. And he believes that's God. The person who wrote the introduction to the book, who loves Stephen Pressfield and the book, does not believe in God. So he's like, I don't think that's God. I think it's something else. But Stephen Pressfield's like, I think that's God, or whatever, whatever it is, the sort of collective unconsciousness that we are. We're all.
Why can't it be an extended part of the person's consciousness? Because there's a part of the brain that we don't use, and we ignore it like it's not there, and we're not even using our full brain power. So why can't it be
that's totally true. It explains.
I agree with
every
that.
Fucking problem, doesn't it?
I think it's consciousness that is harder to control, and you sometimes get control of it.
I don't think consciousness is the mystery, right? The more we learn about it, the less we understand. Right, totally. Osiris, it could totally be that. It could be like, what is that? But anyway, I think the people who really are in the flow, are in the work of it, who embrace the work of it, understand. That's why I'm real That's why it's great that you guys are here every week doing this, right? That's part of that flow. You're putting yourself in the flow. It's not really about what you achieve in any one lesson. Nice, Yolanda. Excellent. All right, so now try this guy, the one that I just sent across the thread. This is also all single vanishing point stuff. If you want, I'll put it down here. So let's see if I can get them both in. So you can see them, but it's tiny. I happen to have a small copy of it. It comes from the book. So if you want to look at this bigger. So Bettina, you did the same. Did you do this as a horizontal, as a portrait? Or did you do this as a horizontal? So how come yours, huh?
I didn't use the correct size paper, so I just did the same.
Oh,
like if
this little thing. All right. The one thing I want to
just-
point out, I don't
I
have an
just-
issue with this because it works, but the one thing I want to point out is that this is a horizontal orientation. That means that things had to go, you should have made your box going this way rather than up vertically high. See that? If you're literally copying this, then this is a
Oh, I see. It's
horizontal
a
orientation.
landscape. Yeah, I get it.
Right. That's my only point, because it looks different, right? So that means
Right.
if you're absolutely copying this, this is you standing on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The one that you and Olga both drew is not you standing exactly on the ground. It's actually you standing up a little bit and looking down more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want you to get. But other than that, it's, yes, you've got it. And now I want you to try this one, which I've sent across the thread so you can see it, you know, higher up. And then before the end, we're going to talk about what happens when we can see the cube like we did in our still life from two sides. Let's see. By the way, you guys, these are great. Excellent, Francesca. You got it. Is this helpful at all? Is this kind of like blowing your mind?
Really helpful. Really.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So try this one.
Okay.
So we're kind of gradually, I think last year I had you guys do this, but I didn't step it up the way I did this time. And I think this is like a super helpful thing. We'll continue. We're going to do a little bit more on perspective work next week, because I think it's so interesting. Osiris, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that the cube that you did last week, it has 2 vanishing points, right?
That's exactly right.
Because you can't draw, you don't know where to put the top corner if you don't draw 2 vanishing points from the side.
You are a genius. A+, Bettina. So we'll go over that at the end. We'll go over that closer to the end of class. Bravo. That is such wonderful right brain thinking. You got it. You followed the logic chain of right brain. Yes, that's exactly right. So you need 2 vanishing points, right? Like when we were looking at this, it was 1 vanishing point. I wanted you to kind of get how that works. But then we'll talk about 2 vanishing points. And then next week, we'll talk about kind of things from the side and perhaps rounded objects, you know, like cups and cylinders and things like that. How perspective affects that, because I think once we kind of put those in place, really great. God, you guys are so smart. That was so smart.
Yeah, but the funny thing about this road, I remember how we were doing it like a year ago, and I was like, oh, it have already been a year.
Can you believe that?
I can't.
I
But
cannot either. Time is
doing it
insane.
road.
Time is insane. Wait till we've been doing this 10 years. Hopefully we'll get to do this for 10 years. Won't that be neat?
It would be amazing.
You guys will be sick of this by 10 years. You'll need another teacher. But by then you'll probably have another teacher. Oh, very nice.
No, we
Olga.
won't.
Oh, very nice.
Why won't we?
Well, Why wouldn't we be doing it? Great point, Diana. Diana, I
Why
suppose.
wouldn't we be? Why would we be with another teacher?
Oh, because maybe I'll have hired somebody to do things. I'm talking
Oh.
10 years from now. 10 years from now, not anytime soon. I promise, not any. Look, you guys,
you're
you're not getting rid
already-
of me that easy.
You're already thinking of quitting?
Okay, backing myself slowly out of that. I will teach you as long as you want to be taught by me. How's that?
Thank you.
As long as you want to be taught. Absolutely. Does anybody, nice, Olga, does anybody want to talk about what Bettina was observing about the cube on two sides? Can we talk, do you want me to talk about that, or do you want me to keep this up a little bit longer?
I want to hear more.
All right, let's do it. So those of you who are still working, don't worry. You've got these pieces here. You've got all the pieces here. Okay, let's talk about the cube from two sides. Because there is, what we were discussing was really one point, one vanishing point, right? What happens when everything's going one direction, but not everything fits that. I'm just going to use a straight edge here. So I'm going to just sort of randomly identify my eye level here, horizon. So here's my horizon. So what if, right, we can see two sides. We can see a side going this way. I'm kind of sketching it in lightly and guessing, and then I'm going to figure it out. And a side going this way, right? And then how on earth do we get this pieces? Because the thing that people had the hardest time with, right, was trying to figure out the angles here. Like a lot of people drew their cubes like that, too high, right? So how do we use the rules of perspective to help us here? Some things, basically what we learn is that the vanishing point has to do with a side, a direction. So if you can see one side, everything's going to one vanishing point. When you're standing in front of something and looking, but here we can see two sides. So as Bettina pointed out, we have two vanishing points. We have a vanishing point for this side and a vanishing point for this side. So the way I'd like to start this, literally, let's get rid of all these lines. Let's just start with our one single vertical in the middle. And then this side of the cube goes to here, which means the top also goes to that vanishing point. Right? And then I've got a straight vertical going down. This side goes to here. Goes to this vanishing point. Now the note, observe the vanishing point is always on the horizon line. So once you get your eye level horizon point, that's where you put your vanishing point. And then I've got a vertical here. And then this line on this side goes to this vanishing point. And this line on this side goes to this vanishing point.
That's crazy.
Not crazy?
Yeah, no, that's pretty amazing. I love that.
Isn't that great? So think about it like this. This side and the top go that direction, and that line on the top. These lines all go this way. This side and here, these lines go this way. So yeah, so the top goes both directions, basically, depending on what you're doing. And of
But then
course,
obviously, if you've got some even more complicated shape, there's an infinite number of vanishing points possible.
not really.
No?
Not really, because vanishing points, remember, it's all side related. So if you've got things going to, you might have 2 or 3 or 4, but like you won't have much more than that. If I have like a little, I don't know, gargoyle sticking out here, it's still going to the same, everything on this side is still going to the same vanishing point. If I want to do windows on this side, everything's going to the vanishing point on this side.
All right, okay. I guess,
Right.
yeah, all right.
Right, yeah, yeah. So even if I've got like things sticking out, it's like, yeah, it's, and then of course, right, these are verticals. Whoops, that's not exactly vertical. There we go. These are verticals. Remember, it can be sometimes kind of tricky to get your lines vertical. To make your lines vertical. You'll want to kind of lean them this way or that way. So be aware of that. So then, of course, if I'm doing a building at eye level, we're standing in front of it from the side. The bottom of the building goes to that vanishing point. The top goes underneath to this vanishing point, and then the top comes to this side goes here. Right, in this case, I can't see the top like here because I'm looking at it from, directly. And then if I'm at the top, I'm drawing my vertical line down. These are all still going. Oops. I didn't draw that to the end. Do that again. Line that up more carefully. Like that, right? Like that. And then I can see the bottom. Then the bottom goes here. Right, and the top, the bottom goes over here too. Just depending on how big I want to make this. Right.
Can we try?
Do it.
That looks like a building downtown LA, I just saw it.
Right? That's
Yeah.
this is the idea. Yes, please try it. Try it. There you go, Osiris. Perfect.
I thought of you.
Osiris.
Yes.
This building, this wall here. So you've got this almost exactly right,
Uh-huh.
except that everything that comes above this line. Here, hold on. Everything that comes above the horizon line. So here's your horizon line here. This line goes down. It doesn't go up. It goes down towards the vanishing point.
I couldn't
Same
figure out
here.
how to get it to do that.
So, well, you've got to erase these 2 lines. You've got to erase these 2 lines, this one and that one, and make them go down
Oh, I
rather
get it.
than up.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Try it. Do the best you can.
You know I got a problem.
Yeah,
Well, listen,
but you're doing good. You're battling the problem. Listen, this is a mind bender. Even if you don't, right? Like, so this is why we're catching it. So instead, yes. So just try to erase those sides of the buildings. Just remember that anything that comes above the horizon line, which is this line, which is this line, the eye level line, anything that comes above goes down. Anything that comes below goes up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Leah, I thought of you last night. I had to cover the Tupac Shakur opening of the first hip hop touring museum in the world.
Wow. How was it?
Deal. Yeah, it's all over the news, but I thought of you because when you go inside, they have a 20,000 foot ceiling space inside where they house all of his artwork, his writings, his And some of the stuff they did creatively was really cool. The guy said, the producer said it took 5 years for them to put it all together.
Wow.
But I thought of you because, you know, Tupac went to art school.
He's
And
such
I
a
was-
fucking genius, that guy.
Oh my
That guy was
gosh.
such a fucking genius.
When
He
it
was
comes to your city, go. It's a global tour. So when it comes there, go. So you can see what I'm
Can you
talking
send
about.
us the article that you wrote on the thread?
Yeah. I can send you the stuff when I finish the interview and we get it edited. I'll send it to you.
Please do.
But
Yeah,
I
that
will
guy
send
was
you the-
very, I had heard that, but I of course have not gotten to see much of his artwork, his visual
Well, it'll
artwork. Of
come to your
course,
city. They're gonna take it from city to city and country
I'm
to
so
country. So
excited. Thank you for
I'm
bringing
gonna
that
send
up.
you some photos of what I took from the phone and you'll be like, wow, we were
Wow.
blown away. And some
Yeah,
of it is
please
very
do.
graphic.
Send it over. Send it over the thread. We'd all like to see
Yeah.
that. That's
Some of it is
amazing.
really graphic, you guys. So it would be kind of hard for some people to look at,
Yeah.
but they tell you that it is so that the people that need to kind of water it down. go with the
Right.
other.
For those of you who finish this, you can then do your building, which looks like this. Now, hold on, I'm gonna send it. You can do your building. You can do this. Right, I just sent this across the thread. You can draw, once you finish that, you can draw your building. It is a little bit of a mind bender, this concept, right? Because it's different than what we think. What we think is a left brainer, what we think is a verbal conceptual person. So that's the real challenge, right? Is to like kind of figure out. And I find this really fun because, you know, Jessica's prior perspective lecture was really amazing on the subject. It really helped me start to see how I can talk about this. And so it's fun to like kind of stage it up and down just to understand it. Once you understand it and can employ it, once you get practice at employing it, right? Because seeing it, as Yolanda has pointed out, seeing it is one thing. But like seeing it is one thing, but like kind of putting it into practice, being able to know where to put things on the page, where to start and end, that's a slightly different thing, right? There's a lot of skill thinking going into place. Oh my God. Yeah, keep sending them, Osiris. This looks amazing.
You put pig on the peanut butter.
God, such a genius he was. Such a loss.
Hmm.
Is anybody finding this helpful in terms of understanding? Oh, wow. Oh, so amazing. Can't wait. Can't wait for it to come back.
Ia, do you have any help for people that are because the lines actually are giving me a headache. So do you have anything to say about how we can kind of get through it? Because I'm bipolar, it's it kind of hurt, like blinking, flashing lights and stuff bother me and all that. But how do I get through it? Because it's kind of
Oh.
twisty.
I do have a tip for you. Can I show you?
What? Yeah.
You mean for blinking flat, for being in places where lights are very overwhelming?
Yeah, and just trying to hold my
Yes.
focus, the lines aren't around.
You can do a kind of relaxation of your eyes. There's a little eye meditation you can do. Do you guys want to do it
Yeah.
for a second? Let's everybody stop and do it. Okay.
I'm sure the
This is so
cats
fantastic. It came from a kid's book.
when I do it.
So actually, I'm gonna I'm gonna pop this down for a second. I'm gonna remove this just for a second so you guys can see me and stop and do this. Okay, so this comes from a kid's book called Drawing with Children. I absolutely love this. When you start a lesson, or at any time your eyes are starting to feel tired and overstressed, start by rubbing your hands together till they get warm. Rub your hands together till they get warm. And then shut your eyes and put your warm palms, kind of gently rest them on your eyelids, right? So that your skull, you can look at me if you wanted to see what exactly I'm doing, but you're going to shut your eyes. And then with shut eyes, you're going to visualize a dark spot in front of each eyeball that's like the size of a quarter. I know it's dark anyway, but imagine an even darker spot. And then imagine that dark spot shrinking and getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Till it disappears. And then when you feel ready, you can keep your hands here as long as you want to. It should feel really good. Remove your hands and open your eyes. And you should feel a little bit like
Relaxing.
Yeah, the kids, I always had to do this for the kids because for some reason I always got the most rambunctious, wild, crazy kids in my art classes. So I'm like, all right, everybody, like start rubbing your hands together, please.
One of those kids.
We're all those kids, right? But did that help? Was that helpful at all? Oh, sorry. So one, I feel like for lights, it would be really great because you're dilating your pupils a little bit. I'm bringing them back down. For those of you who finish this, and then here's the next step, which is to try this. Yolanda, I was thinking about your question too. I often think with like man-made objects like this that are kind of coming here at a regular pace, you can like see so if I measure the distance between here and here and I transfer it here, I can see that this one is half as far, right? The distance between here and here is half the distance between here and here. So if you wanted to get, after a while, it becomes hard to see, but like this, because they're placed at kind of regular intervals, you can see. So there's a distance between here and here. I'll take half of it. Here's where I put my next vertical line. Half of this is where I put my next vertical line. Half of this is where I put my next vertical line. When things are kind of regularly paced like that, that can work. Thank you, Osiris. Great questions today. And thank you for reminding me about the meditation, the eye relaxation. Fantastic. Yolanda, excellent. Can you see, by the way, how we're even seeing the bottoms of the clouds? Right, as we're looking up. There are bottoms and sides to clouds.
Okay, that's we're looking up. Okay, I didn't get the bottom is dark.
It's the same thing. Every object, I know we're focusing on the like straight built man-made stuff. This cloud is like a squiggly cube.
Right, got it. Thanks for pointing it out.
I thought, I didn't know if you would. Nice, Francesca. Are you having fun with this? It's awesome, isn't it?
We'll try the building.
In some ways, things are so much easier. Francesca, I didn't hear you, by the way. Were you saying something?
I was saying that I will try the building.
Yeah.
I'm getting excited
I
by
know, right?
perspective.
Because this is our magic trick, right? This is our bag of tricks that we use to convey three dimensions on a flat surface, right?
For sure.
How can you do that? Like, right, when you think about it, it's so weird. It's like, I can't draw it that way. I can only draw angles, like a windshield wiper. Right? So that is why there's this translation, and that's why it's hard to like intellectually understand. I got very excited by Vanishing Points too, though, because I was like, wow, I can now get how to do buildings. The sort of bad news is, right, that like every angle is different. The top of this, the bottom of this, the top of the windowsill, the top of the bottom of the windowsill, the top of this windowsill, the bottom, right? But I don't have to figure it out. I can just figure out at the angle at which it goes to the vanishing point. And then the only place I need to determine is kind of where does this part start and end? Where's the beginning? Because I know where the end is. All goes to here. Cone vision, ladies and gentlemen. I am pretty convinced that cone vision is a brain development that happens so that we can distinguish things that are farther away from us and things that are closer in. Think about it. The brain
isn't it simply a function of where our eyes are placed?
I mean, it's about organizing information so that you can see it.
It's
not that simple.
But other animals who have eyes in the same place would have a similar kind of vision, as opposed to on the sides, for instance.
Yes, absolutely. But the question is, there's an interpretation happening all the time, right? I want you to think about it like this. Think about what you don't see when you're not trained to see it in the visual spatial, right? So I like to think that the brain is constantly making decisions about how to organize information for us. So we think we're just seeing what we're seeing, but we're not just seeing what we're seeing. We're seeing things in a way that the brain has organized it. So I guess what I'm curious about is, were we born with cone at the very beginning? Were the first people who had two eyes on the side of their heads like born with cone vision, or is that something that developed as a way to interpret information?
I think we probably had it.
Maybe.
Simply because of where the eyes are placed, and it creates this convergence.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Leah.
Yes.
Do you think in areas where the sun, like I guess it would be Australia, New Zealand, those places where the sun is different at different parts of the sky, and do you think over time, because of climate change and all that, that it will change our perception and the way we see in terms of our vision?
Sure.
And then the second question, somebody, I don't have a cat, but somebody told me that that cats see differently or something. They said they see some kind of color or something when they look, or their vision is different or something like that.
Well, their eyes are on the side of their head more, sort of front side.
They were saying they see something. When they look with their eyes, they don't see, they see a color or some kind of thing they see. I can't remember.
I think Sandra can answer that question better. You tell us, Sandra.
I don't remember exactly, but I think they don't see colors like we do. But they see it clearly much better than we do. I mean, at
But-
least what's up close to hunt. Yeah, they have much better vision than we do, but I think the colors are different.
So that brings the question. So I think, Osiris, the answer to your question is, as what we see, as the light hits things differently, we will see it differently. So absolutely, our vision will be impacted. But I think, Sandra, it also comes to the point of like, why does a cat not see green? It's because it's kind of evolved to a point where, or whatever it is, right? It's evolved to a point where it observes certain things. Why do we not see this unless we're taught it? You won't see this and understand it. You might intellectually see it, but you won't be able to recreate it, right? Like, why do we
Because
see
these are
something?
man-made structures.
No, it's about anything. This happens to be a man-made structure, but it's about anything. Why do we not see this if we're not taught? Because you're not trained to look at it. So I guess my
It's not
point
that we don't
is,
see it, we don't know how to recreate it.
if you don't see it, but it's here, that means that your eye is organizing things and you're not observing how exactly it's happening. There's an emphasis. It's more like an emphasis. When we look at things from a certain emphasis. One of the points of learning to draw is that I'm teaching you to see in a different way, in a very different way than you're used to seeing. But not you personally, you, the royal you, we, the royal we. When we learn to draw, we learn to see in a different way. That impacts how we see everything. So that's why I'm curious as to, like, cats see things in a certain way. They've evolved to see them because of what they need. But I
They
don't
need
think
to
they were
hunt.
just born, and I don't think it, and I don't think it can, I think it can change.
Do you
Like,
think that that
depending-
can happen to humans over time?
Sure,
That's
I think it's happening all the time. I think it's happening all the time. What if you took somebody 200 years ago and you brought them up to the present moment? Would they be able to even comprehend what, they might be able to see what modern life is, but they, comprehending it, understanding it, it might, that would be a very different thing. Or 500 years ago, right? Like, I don't know, like bringing a human from 500 years up to the present, how do you comprehend and understand it? If you're not exposed to it gradually, we're changing what we see in our environment and how we observe things all the time. And it changes it changes what we notice and observe. So that's what I'm interested in. The brain is constantly making decisions about what is important and valuable. It might be different to you depending on where you are, what you're seeing, what you're surrounded by. It's a mutable property, what we see, how we observe. So yeah, I think it changes all the time. But also it's a philosophical discussion, right? You can totally disagree with me. But that's my belief. My belief is that the way we see things changes all the time. And when you add a way of looking at something that you're not used to seeing, it changes the way you think about everything. It changes the way you see everything. So your vision changes. What you see and what you notice and observe changes, because
And I think
now
that's
you
the
observe
brain
it.
rather than the eyes.
But the brain and the eyes are connected.
Oh, of course, the
Understand,
brain doesn't know
right?
anything.
The
but
brain is
it is-
processing all the information that the eye is taking in, telling you what to look at. That's my point. You can look at things and not understand what they are, not understand what's going on. Therefore, things look different than if you look at it and understand what it is. So yeah, I think we're always evolving. It's an interesting thought.
On the building picture that you shared, there's a note at the bottom saying each set of parallel lines has its own vanishing point. But
That's the top. That's the top image. Just ignore that, not the bottom
okay.
image.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. I was
Yep.
confused by the note.
Yep. Don't even. Sorry. I should have cropped that out. Boy, Yolanda, you don't miss a trick, do you? You see, you observe all of these steps. I like it.
That means I've had my coffee.
Excellent. Does anybody have any nice plans today? Sandra was showing me the stunningly beautiful, clear, cold weather in her backyard. So like everywhere else. Huh?
Windy
cooking
and freezing here.
I think you all canceled each
It's
other
too
out.
cold to go and enjoy it.
You can enjoy it from your window.
Yes, I'm cooking nice warm soup. Well, enjoy.
Ooh, that sounds lovely.
Nice.
So Leah, I just finished my road.
Okay, send it over.
I did.
Oh, you did? How did I miss that? Hold on.
I think I did.
Oh yeah, just came over. Yeah. Excellent.
Your baby's up to no good.
This is
Okay.
better. So I like how you placed things here. Yep, totally great. So now try these guys.
Oh, okay. So wait, I do the all three build the stacked buildings or the building thing.
Well, start with this. This is really just literally a cube. This is a cube looking down. This is a cube from the
Okay.
front. This is a cube from the top. And then you can add in your windows if you want to.
All right.
Wait.
Yeah, how much do you think NFTs are influencing the market of art and stuff?
That's a good question. That is like the conversation that artists are all having right now, which is hilarious because most artists I know are not that tech savvy. So they're the hyperbole is flying. Let's put it that way. I don't know. I think like anything, people want art for a variety of reasons. And there's a whole group of people that just want something beautiful for their walls. So those people they don't want an NFT, you know? And I don't see like the NFT market really influencing that group, the group of people that just want paintings for their walls, which is a lot of people, right? On some level, everybody wants some art on their walls. So there's that. I think it's a fad. I know people who are like, we're going to find out that this is something illegal. I don't know what would be. Then again, my business partner, Melissa Moline, my studio mate, who is the jeweler, she and I run a gallery and she has just reserved space in the virtual, she just bought property to open a gallery in the virtual reality world. So, like she's doing things, I don't really get it. What she's doing. We're talking about it a little bit. I don't know. I think it's early stages. I think it's a fad in a way.
What is NFT?
A non-fungible token. It means you create a piece of art online that people buy with Bitcoin.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't actually exist.
A piece of art. Not neither does the money, yes.
It's a
Well,
print
but
of
the
the
money
art.
does
It's a
exist,
print.
right? Like
I know,
lots of people will
Wait,
take
does, yeah.
Bitcoin. So it is actually developing into its own kind of currency. People seem to be buying it. I haven't, I mean, I'm not particularly tech savvy myself, I should say. So like for me, I'm like, you know, then again, I was like that about Instagram. So I don't know. Probably by the time I figure out what's valuable about it, it'll be way too late.
To me, it's like calories you can't eat. Like you can have this entire virtual ice cream sundae.
Right.
Isn't that satisfying? It's like,
I don't really know. That's a really good question. It's like a big game, really, if you think about it. It's like a big game in which you can own things that don't really exist. So you can pay for things with money that isn't really money. and you can own things that don't exist. I guess in the same way we play Monopoly, it's like
Yeah.
a game. It's like a game.
But you do own a print. It is a print of the art because I have an NFT page. It is a print. It's a print of the art.
You
It's
can
a
sell a
print
print
of
of
the
the
art
art if
itself.
you want to. Not everybody does, but some people.
Yeah.
So yeah, some people can sell. So that's probably where it'll go is like how it'll sort of influence the regular world is that people will want a print of something, a physical print of something that exists online. And then the artist gets to figure out how to charge for that. You know, how much can you charge for that? What will people pay for that? So there's definitely people making money doing it, like actual money, and there's actual art or prints of art anyway, kind of changing hands. But me as an over 50 person, I'm not really, it isn't as natural a thought to process for me. She's laughing at me. You're laughing, I see you laughing. But you know what I mean? Like there gets to be a point where there's an age where you're like, I just cannot deal with one more thing.
I'm laughing. I'm older than you. I'm just cracking up to what you're saying. I'm like,
just like, I'm done here.
what do you want?
I see little kids with little devices, like little toddlers, and I think, thank God it's mathematically impossible for me to have to teach them how to write. I'll be retired.
Oh my
Oh,
God,
yeah.
Bettina, have you seen in China where they're walking the AI dogs and cats? I was screaming. Like they're walking, it's an AI, it's an artificial thing and they're walking.
So
That's
One
funny.
lady
That
had a
reminds
baby.
me, did your kids ever have a Tamagotchi?
Oh yeah, I remember
The
those.
little pet they had to keep alive, and then
Yes,
if
the
your
egg,
virtual
the
pet
egg.
died, you're like, it's a virtual pet. And then you don't know whether to feel terrible because your kid wasn't responsible enough to keep this little digital thing alive.
Or relieved that it wasn't an actual
It
thing.
wasn't actually real, which is probably why she let it die.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It's a whole thing. You know, it's a whole thing. It's like this whole sort of way of thinking. That doesn't mean some people like are always, you know, that's the thing about our world. Things move so fast. And having said that, like I myself can see other artists who are even more behind than I am, right? Who don't even know how to put, I don't know, their stuff onto a website or, you know what I mean? Like, or trying to figure out this like kind of new world. It's really hard. It gets harder and harder because we're not hardwired to think that way. I mean, truthfully, Bettina, you should be having a hard time. Oh, when you say teaching people to write, you mean actually create nonfiction prose.
It's
You're not
just
talking.
that people's attention and ability to read has really changed because of the way they're interacting
Right.
with print online or
Right.
Yeah, things are just very different and their brains are different.
That's right. That's right. Their brains are different. And when you said write, I thought of like first, second, and third graders learning how to handwrite something.
No, I meant like, yeah.
Yeah. But like, if you think about it, people learning to handwrite something, if you don't do that when you're 7, 8, and 9, a whole set of brain processes connected to drawing is not like instigated. You know, it's not started. Like, so there's all, so I guess it's like this, right? Each time we learn to see things or do things in a different way, and we learn that system, we open up a whole sort of
new set of connections.
Yeah, a new set of connections. And they do know that in brain, like the way brains work, that if you open like that, as you're opening a new set of connections, all the neurons are firing. And because the neurons are firing in this one process, they also fire together in all the other processes. So what happens is as we get good at something, the brain finds shortcuts and the neurons stop all firing because they don't need to. Brain deterioration is really what happens the moment you get good at something. So the beauty of like learning to draw or learning a language or something, you never get so good at it that like
Oh.
right? You don't, like, you have to stop thinking. But once you start to think about it this way. I like to think about it this way. What if you'd never been taught to read? How different would your life be if you didn't know how to read? Like, it would be probably a much more frustrated life, probably a life that has less idea of possibilities. Like, learning to read is like huge. If you don't learn to read, like, all these set of thought processes don't get triggered. The brain does not get stimulated. You don't learn that sort of whole set of things. You can't take it to its end point. You're just probably feeling frustrated all the time because you don't know what those things are that you're looking at. Signs, paperwork, the newspaper, right? You don't know those things. So it's the same, like when we learn to draw, we're opening up this whole new way that influences the way we observe and see things. And then, of course, what's happening on the planet is also impacting how we see things physically and kind of conceptually. So I don't know, I think we're changing all the time.
Well, that's how broken languages develop.
Right.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week.
Great work,
Hey, say,
Osiris.
Call
Yep.
me, Osiris.
I have to call you. I did what we talked about, and I just haven't had time. But
Exactly.
I
Call me
have it
whenever
all
you
done,
like.
and we can talk. It's interesting.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.
I
Bye.
love how
Bye.
you guys
Ciao.
are forming connections. It makes me really happy to hear that. I like that. That's what this is all about, right? We're actually taking it out of the virtual and into, technically this is a completely virtual experience. However, there's a physical component to it, and we can take it out of virtual anytime we want to. So in this way, virtual kind of enhances the experience rather than confusing it or muddying it. And we don't even think about it because we've all been programmed to do it. Can you imagine somebody 200 years ago seeing this class? What would they even fucking make of it? Like, that would be like, what the hell is going on here? And speaking of this, what do you make of perspective? Anybody have observations about this? Is it kind of neat? Not as hard as you thought it was? Any thoughts? It's a pain in the butt.
For me, it's still hard. I mean, it's easier during the classes, but when you're going in like real life, in real city, and you see buildings, and you're like, how could I do this?
Well, you start by finding a spot that looks similar to the spots that we've practiced, right?
Mhm.
So you want to find a building that looks a little bit like, here, hold on. You want to find a building that looks, you can start with what you know. Stand and find a building which has a perspective like this.
Mhm.
That's going to start to teach you how to find what you'll notice first, Olga, is that probably the top goes down and the bottom goes up.
Yeah.
Then with your pencil, you'll be able to measure like this. Here. With your pencil or brush or whatever it is you're using, your straight edge, you'll be able to stand back and measure like this. Oh, that goes to here.
Mhm.
Look at where they meet. You'll be able to see the high, and you'll be able to start analyzing. Where do they meet? That's how you start.
Yeah.
That's how you start. Start with things that you know. And then you'll begin to observe things as you actively start to locate your own eye level horizon,
Mhm.
right? You need to apply what you know, not try to make up, right? Not try to do it all at one point. So that's my suggestion to you, is to look for things that fit this, that fit this.
Mhm. Yeah, with
Start
the
with
road,
that.
with the road for me it's easier because I like know it like for sure. But
Yeah.
with it's always I always got confused about. I know that the lines aren't like parallel, but about vanishing point, I always got confused. Like, do they go like all in one point, or like each set of the windows going to one point? Like this is always a
Each
question.
setup, but this is what this says it. All of
Yeah.
these go to one point. Everything on this side goes to the same point.
Mhm.
Everything on this side goes to the same point.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to know, right? Everything here going this direction, and it's obvious because right here is the side, and this is one side, and this is another side.
Mhm.
So you don't ask yourself the question, do all the windows go to one point? They do on one side.
I know when I was like drawing it, like now I was like, I made it in the one vanishing point. But when you're in the city and you're like, you see real buildings, not like just pictures, and you're like analyzing everything.
That you're over complicating it. You're overcomplicating it, right? So
Yeah.
find the perspectives that you already know how to draw and
Mhm.
start with those. And you will find you'll be able to start to see it with other things. Remember, you're still a baby in this world of art. So you allow yourself. Listen,
Mhm.
it took 10 years before I even started teaching.
Mhm.
So you're a baby now. You're a very small, you're young in this field. So you just don't have enough experience. As you said, you have experience with the road because you learned about that when you were a little kid. So
Yeah.
you need to put yourself in situations where you can start to see it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. So much for explaining all
I
of
think
this.
the other thing that happens is that we automatically, when we don't have this flat surface interpreted for us, we
Mhm.
automatically try to make our lines go this way, right? We try to follow back, right? So
Yeah.
part of it is remembering that even though I know this building goes back, I can only draw lines that go this way or this way.
Mhm.
I can only go lines that go this way, like a windshield wiper,
Ah.
right?
Yeah.
So hold your arms straight. Windshield wiper.
Actually, that's really helpful.
That's
Yeah.
helpful, right? That really helped me. That really helped me when I understood it's like a windshield wiper. But-
So you can do like this.
Yes, you
Like-
go like this. Check your angle. Dink.
Interesting.
Keeping your pencil straight, keeping your arm straight. If you kind of bend your arm in the middle of it, you get a different angle, so it's not as helpful. But if you can keep your arm straight, and remember, everything I have to put on the paper has to match, can only go this way or this
Mhm.
way.
But why?
Because paper is flat. Paper is flat. You can't draw into it. You have to draw it like this.
Like this.
Got it?
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Paper is flat. You cannot draw it. You cannot draw back, but you want to, and that's what messes you up.
Yeah. that's
Not
true.
you, the royal us. We all want to do it. I want to draw as if I can go back, as if I can push
Mhm.
back. I can't. Paper's flat. I can only go this way or that way. I think that's why I like paper, because it limits where I have to go. It
Mhm.
limits me on this. So that's kind of the intellectual, but you don't really get it until you do a lot of them. You do a lot
Yeah.
of them wrong. And then you're like, okay, what am I doing wrong? I know when I do this, it's wrong. So let me try this, right? That's the thing about drawing. You can't really, these concepts are really hard to apply until you've done it enough times and messed it up enough to like kind of think, I need a new way to think about this. right? Because what I'm doing isn't working. I'm trying to draw as if I can go back and I can't. My paper is flat.
Not like understanding of this concept, even when we know them, but implementing and like really doing this concept.
You have to do it every day, many hours. Every
Yeah.
day, many hours. Trust me, after a year, you'll get better. After 2 years, you'll get better. After 3 years, you'll get better.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that is like every day for hours. Get better. There's no way you can go into a situation, Olga, and all of a sudden it becomes easy. I guess that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's never easy.
I know.
Yeah, right. Like, I know what you're trying to say. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I hear what you're saying, which is like, I want to know these rules. How does this work? It's hard. And I'm like, yeah, it totally is. Because then you have to create your own plane, right? You have to make sure you're measuring things from the right plane. You have to have practice in doing that because sometimes it's hard. It's hard to hold your hand straight. If you remember the first time we did this exercise, some people had trouble drawing straight lines. They drew
Yes.
like this.
Yes.
Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Some people couldn't even see that they were drawing a slanted
Yeah, I remember
line
that.
rather than a straight line. So it's like all these things. We've come far, pretty far, considering it's only been a year. Wait till next year. By next year, you're going to have a lot more. So what I would do, Olga, is find buildings that look like this
Mm-hmm.
when you're standing in front of them, where you can really easily see the eye level, where you can easily see this, and start by trying to sketch those.
Mm-hmm.
And that challenge is enough.
Okay.
Simplify it. Simplify it. Find a scene like this. Simplify it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't see that, don't do it. Look for a simpler thing. And then from there, it will get easier. But it's always really hard to go from life. Because all of the things that you're doing, this has already been translated for you into 2 dimensions. You don't have to decide what they are. It's already flat. But
Mhm.
like, it's hard to flatten things.
Yeah, but
Get that
it's
shape.
interesting to try.
Yeah, of course. It's the practice. It's the ultimate practice. It's the one thing that I can't really do for you in class. I cannot give you a 3-dimensional object and have you draw it. I can't do that because everything I put in front of here gets flattened, right? Even if I put this thing in front of you, it's still flat. Although it's a little bit, it hasn't already been put on paper. So maybe like drawing it, but even the point of it being photographed means it's already been flattened, right? You're looking at it in a flat way. So although I could probably put some real objects and we at least have a chance to, now you've just given me an idea for next week. Thank you.
Wait, Lee, I want to share a photo I've got. Wait, I have to figure out how to find it. Shoot.
Let me go get my
Oh,
phone.
I get it now. So a question about a photo I've got. Wait, I'm going to send it over in a second. I think it's following what you said, except that the vanishing point is off the page.
It can often be off the page.
Yeah.
I drew it not off the page. Yeah, very often it's off the page. Oh, Francesca, very nice. Very
I'm gonna
nice.
leave you guys.
Okay, Diana.
Bye, Diana. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Yolanda, nice.
Bye.
Bye. So Yolanda, oh, Bettina, nice. You guys, these are great. So one of the things I wanted, okay. So what's your question, Bettina?
So did you see the picture from Jersey City?
Yeah.
Okay, so then if I not that I could draw, because I can't draw David Bowie that way.
Right.
But I would just mentally, because the windows are all going to a vanishing point somewhere to the right off the page.
Exactly.
And the horizon line looks like it's kind of where the building meets the sidewalk, maybe somewhere. Right. So
well,
it's where
what you can, so here's a couple of things. The tip is this: everything that's going down means it's above the horizon line.
Yeah, okay.
So where you kind of want to look is where do things start to go up? And then where do things start to go down? That will help you. Where they meet is where the horizon line is,
Okay.
right? So these things here, I'm trying to, let me do that. Let me point this out like a bit. Right? Even if you can't see the horizon, you can still see that everything kind of goes. I think the horizon on this is, I think it's about here. And I can see, right? So part of it is you're checking, even though it's off the page, I can still see that it goes to a single point. See how my pen is kind of, it's hard to show while holding my pen here. Let's hold it like this. It's still going to the same point. Right here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's out here.
All right.
And I can see this is going here. There you go. So just because you can't see where the end is doesn't mean you can't figure it out by checking angles. If you're struggling to do that, you can put two pieces of paper down and have the second piece of paper be where you're, if you're doing this from a photo, you can put the second piece of paper down and just reach it out. That might be easier, right? But that's what makes it hard. Is figuring out. Also, it's kind of really close. Yeah, everything is, the vanishing point is off the page in every regard. Let's see if I can figure it out. If I could continue to draw it here. That's too high because we've got things coming down here. I think that, yeah, horizon line is about here. Maybe a little lower because everything here is coming down to it. Everything here is coming up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's partly because you're kind of close in. It's the angle that you're at, right? It's maybe that the street is dipping down a little bit, so you're looking up a touch, or it's up a little bit and you're coming down.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then you quickly learn, dang, if I do a city, I want to do way less windows.
That's true.
Way less windows. What was I thinking doing this thing with all the windows? These are great questions, you guys, by the way. I'm going to stop the recording.